Hi there. It's December the 18th, and we're continuing our journey through the revelation of John, the revelation of Jesus Christ, and we're in chapter 9, reading from verses 1 to 21, the whole chapter. There are two main elements in this chapter. There's first the release of a plague of locusts, of demonic locusts from the abyss, from the bottomless pit. And there's also the formation of a huge, vast army, seeming like a human army, in the second part of the chapter. And the chapter ends with, even though there's these terrible things happening on the earth, the people of earth are still not repenting. They're still insisting on worshipping their idols. They're still insisting on following the non-gods. So the first thing that happens is that there's a star that falls from the heavens, it says, and this star seems to be not a physical star, but actually some angelic being. It could symbolize a positive, powerful angel from heaven, or it could symbolize Satan, who was a fallen, depicted as a fallen angel. Whatever happens, they have the key to the bottomless pit, the abyssos, what literally means, the Greek means without bottom, without a bottom to it. And so the abyss is opened and it releases locusts. Now these seem not to be physical locusts. The locust, of course, is a symbolic picture from the Hebrew scriptures, thinking back to the plague of locusts in the time of the Exodus affecting Israel, thinking of Joel and Amos speaking of the plagues of locusts. Locusts were a reasonably frequent occurrence in the Middle East, devastating crops. So the locusts that John sees are very much a development of that, but these are hideous locusts. These have different characteristics. They're not natural locusts, and actually neither do they destroy the greenery. They're actually there to torment the earth, and they don't bring death as such, but they just bring torture. It's very hard to interpret what John is seeing here, but certainly what he's seeing is something awful, something terrible that is being unleashed on the earth, and something like a plague, something like, and it's a demonic plague. It comes out of the pit. And so in this demonic attack that's going on, there's a tormenting, and it says people are unable to find death. The oppression is deathly, and people are under this oppression, but they're unable to find death. The locusts look like battle horses, and they have crowns of gold on their heads, human faces, women's hair, really grotesque appearance that they have. And they have a king. These locusts have a king. They are organized in that sense. They are ordered, and the king is called in Hebrew Avadon. Comes from the Hebrew verb avad, meaning to destroy, and so in the Greek they're also translated as the leader is also translated as Apollyon. And this is the end, it says, of the first woe, but there are still woes to come. So these trumpets that are sounded, and this of course is the fifth trumpet, there's two more to come. These are often called the trumpets of the woes. Then there's a sixth trumpet, and at this one, when this trumpet is blown, first of all, there's a voice calling from the altar of God, the golden altar before God. Now, in the temple and in the tabernacle, there was an altar of incense that stood before the veil, that stood before the separating veil. And on this altar, as well as on the Ark of the Covenant, on the mercy seat, on this altar every year was rubbed the blood of the atoning sacrifice. So the horn actually speaks about here the horns of the altar, and the horns are specifically mentioned because these are a place where atonement is made. And so there's a calling out from this altar, and this again is connected to the whole thing of prayer, and it now calls out to the sixth angel, and the sixth angel is given the authority to release a further four angels. Not sure if they're the same four angels who've already been released, but they are connected with four angels. Four again is the number of the earth, and these are particularly released and are tied up by the great river, the river Euphrates. Now Euphrates Euphrates was symbolic. It flowed by the city of Babylon, and so there are various connections with Babylon. There's the Tower of Babel, man building up his own power and authority. There is, of course, the Empire of Babylon. There's also the connection that maybe was in John's mind or was in John's vision of the Roman Empire, which actually ended just about at the river Euphrates. So the river Euphrates is a highly symbolic river, and these angels are unleashed from this place, and a great human army is raised up and to fight after much of the earth has been destroyed and after a third of the human race have been destroyed. And it's said that the number of the troops and horsemen of this army was 200 million. Now, this is a vast army. The number of troops in world wars seemed to mount to no more than 70 million. So the idea of 200 million is a vast, vast army beyond any capacity that we could have. And what John seems to be saying here is this is a supernaturally strong army, and they are filled with fire, they're filled with plague, they're filled with horrible, horrible things. And there seems to be something almost mechanical about their horses. They're riding horses, but these horses seem to be powered, and they have fire and smoke and sulfur coming out of their mouths. Some scholars, particularly in modern ages, want to connect these with mechanized armies that have been mechanized. We can't say that for sure, but obviously John is describing something that is beyond his logical experience and understanding. But we can also say, well, maybe there is some sort of connection, though we can't pin it down. However, at the end of this chapter, as I've already mentioned, even though all this is happening, even though there is all this death and plague and torment going on, it says the people who've not been killed still do not repent. They still don't turn around. They still don't come back to God. They don't stop worshipping the demons of gold and silver and stone and wood, which cannot see, hear, or talk, John says, thinking back to the prophets who speak of the idols of the heathen being silver and gold, the work of men's evil hands. They have ears, but they hear not, mouths, but they talk not, eyes, but they see not, and there's no breath in their mouths. So it's that echo again from the Hebrew scriptures. And they don't repent of their murders or of their magic. And magic here, sorcery, the word is pharmakia. So it's connected to drug use. Drug abuse is a big part of the magic that goes on in these ancient times. And also they don't repent of their immorality, of their sexual incontinence, or of their stealing. And so here we have the summary in this chapter 9 of this terrible oppression of these armies that is coming against this people, and people still not repenting, even though God is calling them to turn around. We'll see what happens in the next chapters. But it calls us again to come back to that altar, that gold incense altar, to continue to pray, to know that there is atonement with God, that God is providing a way out for us through Jesus. Have a very good December 18th.